Hi, everybody. Derek Sloan here. Have two special guests, Adam Skelly, Chris Weisdorf. We are now very near to the final showdown in court over Adamson BBQ, which was Adam's barbecue and brisket sandwich restaurant in Etobicoke. And it was shut down over 5 years ago, I believe. And you've been in ongoing court battles for about 5 years. You finally have your day in court, which I think is 3 days in court. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that. It's coming up just at the end of this month, February. Man, you guys have had multiple ups and downs, near-death experiences with this court case. You finally have it lined up. Chris, you make a good argument that this is the kind of COVID case, the most important case that is still in the court systems, that's still on the books. Tell us why people should care, and tell us why we should be excited about this case coming up just around the corner.
There are numerous reasons to support it, and people have asked me outright, why is it different than any other COVID-related challenge? Why ultimately should it be supported compared to any other case? So one point is all other challenges are moot. You've heard it before, the public health orders that affected the lockdowns and mandates are long expired. There's a 2-year limitation period to bring a civil action, which is like the statute of limitations. Then the law can't be challenged unless there's a live controversy. Both conditions exist in this case. The prosecution continued against Adam more than 4 years after the fact, and his business and livelihood were completely destroyed by government action, just like so many others who are on the brink when their government loans come due. I mean, the issue with government loans, it still hasn't been disposed of, and they're still going after people, including people working at the CRA. So that's still very much a live issue. Then there's another point, which is no one suing today would have standing in court. And today, no one may have standing because, to repeat, the public health orders are long expired and the limitation period is long being exceeded. So there's very little left to challenge. It's too late. Adam is literally the last man standing who has standing to challenge COVID tyranny, and he passes the test for public interest standing as established by our Supreme Court with flying colors. Two other points. If someone with virtually unlimited resources sued the government, which would be any government today, it could be any government anywhere, politicians and the experts would simply cry, we don't know, and demand amnesty, or we didn't know. We did demand amnesty and forgiveness to say that they acted in good faith. The evidence must be contemporary to the time with the knowledge that everyone had at the time. The evidence here is, it's about five years old, nearly. It cannot be touched. A former Chief Medical Officer of Health, Eileen Davila, was cross-examined and refused almost all questions asked. She couldn't explain a single decision she made back in 2020, which dooms Toronto's defense in court. This is a really critical point. So there are two reviews of administrative decision makers. One is on the basis of reasonableness. The other one is on the basis of correctness. And she fails on both because reasonableness, you have to be able to figure out, well, why did they make the decision in the first place, or numerous decisions? She didn't even bother to try. Then on correctness, she's blatantly wrong because she literally trespassed Adam from his own property, became the occupier. Can't do that. That's not legal. It's not correct in law. You need a single justice of Superior Court to make an order so that they can take possession of the property. Anyway, going back to my points, the remainder would be the courts have taken judicial notice that COVID-19 was and continues to be a deadly pandemic that spreads to completely healthy people with no symptoms whatsoever. This is the great lie as it stands as far as all the courts are concerned. Everything stems from it, including the vaccine mandates and all the destruction that came with them. And to supplant it, the great lie must be called out with thorough expert evidence.
Okay, well, Adam, this has been a life-changing experience for you. Obviously, the direction of your life has changed significantly. You went through a lot of, personal and financial hardship. You have criminal charges that are actually still sort of, I guess you would say, pending the outcome of this civil action, I believe, or the penalty or something. You've, moved across the country with your family. your eyes were open to the what can happen when you're on the wrong side of the government. Tell us what this case means to you. I mean, this has been quite the journey for you.
Yeah, indeed it has. I tell you, Derek, I was getting some information back in starting November of 2019 about this virus that was coming, and just fortunately for me, it was a blessing to have been tuned into the counter narrative. Remember those people that were just the video in China, the lady just falling over dead in the street that caused all this pandemonium, and you're looking at it through the other lens, going, "This is nuts! Like this is a respiratory virus, and people are just dropping dead." People got so scared of that happening to them, they thought, and even when the actual results of COVID or like the symptoms of COVID didn't match that, it's like they were already brainwashed. And fortunately, I never had any of that. So I had this real calling to speak out against it because I could see it from day one, seeing it through the other perspective, and I never bit onto the fear of this thing. So by the time November 2020 came around and they did the lockdowns again, at this point, I told myself, I'm not shutting down. If they try to do this again, Ford said he wouldn't lock down again without showing the data. The data was all then later protected by NDA, and then they locked down. I was like, okay, I'm laying in bed the night before, and my heart is just burning in my chest, and I'm like weeping, just going, I know I have to do this tomorrow, and it's going to be so difficult, and it's going to cost me a lot, but I have to do it. It was like a calling was put onto me. So I said back then, I'm not going to stop until it's over. I've been offered a deal kind of like under the table, like we'll drop everything. We'll drop the $200,000 lawsuit. We'll drop all your criminal charges. We'll make this all go away if you just drop the charter challenge. I'm like, nope, we're going to go all the way. I moved out to Alberta. I found God. I've been introduced to Christ. And there's a scripture that stuck with me so well in James when it says, let your perseverance finish your work. And that's what's going to happen. Our perseverance is going to finish its work. This is going to be brought to light. If we get the declarations that we're seeking, there's a number of public officials that are open to major tort liability. And if we don't have public apologies from these guys before the ruling comes out, our work will continue on that and it will be finished. So that's what this case means to me. Of course, there's going to be financial restitution for me, which will be great, so I can finish my work that I've started out here in Alberta, which is a farm, and we have big plans for to serve people good, nutritious, healthy food in the way that the Lord intended. If we are financially restored from the damages at the barbecue restaurant, we're going to blow that thing up, and it's going to be the most beautiful thing imaginable. So that's what it means to me. It means bringing the truth. It means holding people accountable, which seems to never happen, and to restore me and my family to where we were before. That's what it means to me. Thanks, Derek.
Hey, that's really exciting, Adam. And you know, we've spoken many times about this case, but even in what you just said, there was things there that I didn't know, some extra details that were added in. So very exciting to hear that. Great to hear that even though you went through a lot of issues, it looks like God is turning it into something good. And that's great to hear. So really excited to hear your personal story on that. So this case here is really going to be a landmark case. You have 3 days of a hearing. Could be probably 4, 5, 6 months before you get a ruling. Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the various experts and the legal strategy that's going to be employed on this case?
Yeah, well, the experts, there are 6 of them, multidisciplinary. The expert number 1 had to be replaced because he refused to re-swear his evidence in this proceeding compared to the last proceeding. So we had to find another expert, and that's expert number 1. The rest of them submitted their evidence, resubmitted their evidence, re-swore their evidence as it was exactly in April, May of 2021. So nothing has changed there. When they say, well, we didn't have that information back then, well, our experts did. So there is no excuse to say that they didn't know. The expert number 1, the replacement, his analysis was all done from 2020, actually. So, and he was, very upset about all the restrictions as everyone was, and did work back then, and then eventually published it a few years later. So the experts are Dr. David Gortler, PhD, former Yale and Georgetown University didactic professor of pharmacology and biotechnology, also served within the FDA as both a medical officer, senior medical analyst, member of the FDA senior executive leadership team, senior advisor to the FDA Commissioner on matters of clinical and non-clinical drug safety, FDA regulatory affairs, and FDA science policy. He's submitted a report detailing hydroxychloroquine as a reasonable alternative to COVID-19 emergency measures, along with its safety and efficacy. His analysis has also produced ample evidence of bias, misrepresentation, fraud, conflict of interest, and willful blindness regarding the publication of hydroxychloroquine safety and efficacy by experts in the media. Last but not least, he has analyzed the reasonableness and proportionality of the emergency measures and concluded that they were grossly unreasonable and disproportionate, even in given what the government knew or ought to have known at the time. Expert number 2 is Dr. Douglas Allen, PhD, professor of economics, Simon Fraser University. He examined 88 papers from the National Bureau of Economic Research at Harvard regarding cost-benefit analyses of lockdowns. No such analysis has ever been conducted by any government anywhere, at least all here in Ontario. The government has been called out and held to account directly regarding the abuse of power of the unprecedented lockdowns. Dr. Allen would go on to convert his report into a widely published economic research paper that has been very well received by academia. And also Dr. Allen participated in a case that went all the way to Supreme Court over a decade ago. So he's very familiar with this type of litigation. Expert number 3 is Dr. William Matt Briggs, PhD, former professor of statistics and biostatistics at Ivy League Cornell, co-author of the very first book ever written on lockdowns, The Price of Panic, published in 2020. He performed a statistical analysis demonstrating that there is either no correlation or a negative correlation between lockdowns and infection and mortality rates. He also submitted evidence that hospitals experienced no greater load than usual throughout 2020. Adam has actually submitted the same through a Freedom of Information request, as has Dr. Trozy in her case, who's not being proffered as an expert who was on the ground back then. Expert number 4 is Dr. Gilbert Burdine. He's an MD. He's a Harvard and MIT educated associate professor of medicine at Texas Tech University, a specialist in pulmonology, that's lung-related stuff, for over 2 decades. He's treated COVID patients directly. He submitted medical evidence challenging the premises of the pandemic as it affected individual patients. He also weighed in on the consequences of not specifically permitting children to be exposed to a virus which has negligible effects on those under 20 years of age. We all suffered it, and his evidence proves it. Expert number 5 is Dr. Harvey Risch, MD, PhD, professor, now emeritus of epidemiology at Yale, author of several hundred papers, one of the most oft-cited in epidemiology on the planet. He submitted evidence on reasonable alternatives to emergency measures, focusing on hydroxychloroquine. More than 2.5 years later, his report is unassailable, and this is actually more time has passed than that, certainly. No one has even attempted to refute it. Dr. Gortler has affirmed the accuracy of Dr. Risch's report approximately 4.5 years after it was written. And then the final expert, number 6, is Dr. Byron Bridle, PhD, Associate Professor of Viral Immunology at University of Guelph, author of dozens of papers and former regular peer reviewer of scientific papers. He submitted evidence on asymptomatic transmission or lack thereof, the same for retransmission after infection. Similarly, he opined at length about variants of concern, aerosolized transmission, immune response, and also reasonable alternatives, just as Dr. Risch did and Dr. Gortler. Hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and vitamin D were analyzed and backed with impeccable, irrefutable evidence. There are 77 papers alone that he cited backing the use of vitamin D3 supplementation to combat infection and lessen transmission, morbidity, and mortality. The government was grossly negligent and willfully blind to disregard them all. Dr. Gortler's affirmed the accuracy of Dr. Bridle's report approximately 4.5 years after it was written. So those are the experts, and those experts you would think would have been challenged, and they really have not been. You have the medical advisor, he's the expert in this case for the government. There is just one, and he's basically said he disagrees with the 6 experts. And he said regarding pharmaceutical alternatives, which I guess would not count vitamin D, that they didn't go through randomized placebo-controlled trials, so therefore they're invalid. That is supposed to pass as something that's a reasonable alternative under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, which through the Reopening Ontario Act is what they used against Adam. So they never had any justification. They had ample opportunity over years to explain themselves and have not. They've done everything possible to duck their obligations, to explain the reasonableness of their decisions. They continue to do so. They have not refuted any of Adam's evidence, and ultimately, I believe that is why Adam will win this case, because it's impossible for a judge to try to say, "Well, we just don't think this evidence is up to snuff," or we just don't believe the experts. Can't do that. So it is what it is for them. But the bottom line is, if you cannot impugn the expert or any of the experts, 6 of them, how are you going to win in court? And anyway, I'm not going to get into, you asked about legal strategy. I won't get into legal strategy, but it stands to reason. It is somewhat difficult for someone. It doesn't necessarily need to be the government. You go to court, one side has their evidence, the other side has their evidence. And then the courts in a civil standard is the balance of probabilities. It's like over 50% or the preponderance of evidence, whatever tips the scales. So in Adam's case, I mean, he tips the scales hugely. And the factum was that is his written arguments were just released just about 10 days ago. And they are extremely user friendly. Anyone can read them. They don't have very much legalese in them. It does not have very much legalese in it. And so it is very easy to understand. And it's pure genius in my view. I guess we're biased, but this is something that puts the onus on the government and says they have to justify it. And other people said that at the time, that the government has to justify its actions. They can't just go willy-nilly and do what they did to Adam with 6, 7 separate legal proceedings.
That's right. And I'll say, if anybody would like to see those, you can go to canucklaw.ca. That's canucklaw.ca, and they have the factum posted on there. And like Chris said, it's easy for anybody to read.
Yeah, and I posted the factum on the Give Send Go, and I also posted it on our website. The link is floating around, so all of that is there.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. We wish you all the best. We'll be watching. We'll be sending out information on how people can actually watch online or attend in person when we get that information. But until then, all the best to you guys. God bless. And we'll be excited to see how this turns out.
God bless.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Derek. Appreciate it.
Good evening. It was another chaotic day at Adamson BBQ in Etobicoke. This is the 3rd day the owner, Adam Skelly, vowed to defy lockdown orders and open for indoor dining. But today, police changed the locks on him before he could enter. And during the lunch hour, he was arrested.
Please, give me your justification for violating his Charter of Rights and Freedoms under the emergency order. And that justification must be proven every 30 days. Doug Ford saying we can't know his experts and we can't see the data is not justification.
Buddy, let me tell you something. You need to shut down. You're putting people's lives in jeopardy. You know, I always try to be nice the first time, but this guy is just totally ignoring public health officials. Where's he going?
This is a fundamental fracture about to happen in monumental biblical proportions in Canada. Here today, this restaurant chooses to stay open and defy these lockdowns. They're unconstitutional, and they go against our human rights.
Canada, not
government is betting on ignorance and intimidation, and they're gonna lose. Because when you come to the point where you have nothing to lose, you're gonna do whatever it takes.
He's a hero. This is a hero. Why you arrested?
Adam.
You fucking Gestapo bastards. Good job, guys. God bless you, man.
I cannot stand thinking all the big stores are open, no problem, and then killing these little people. It's just not right. It's not right before God.
I think we realize what we saw the last couple of days was the most egregious misuse of public resources and police power that any of us have ever been witness to. They wanted to put the fear of government into your spine so you don't have the courage to stand up and do the same thing that Adam did. His private property in a so-called free country is now their property.
Police arrived early this morning to change the locks on the doors after Skelly vowed to reopen to indoor dining for the third day.
The reason none of this will stand up in court is you cannot violate our charter rights, even under an emergency, unless you have extreme justification.
So, until you can provide me justification for violating his Charter of Rights and Freedom on multiple levels, you have absolutely no legal authority to be here, and everything you're doing here is going to go off in your face.
The bottom line is, they know what they did will not stand up in court. That's how this ends, immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling you this. This is united non-compliance.
This is what united non-compliance looks like. When everybody from all walks of life realizes that this is full of shit and they can't do anything. Look, we're here. We're inside. I'm going to start cooking. You want something? I'm going to make you some food right now.
All we have to do is exactly what Adam Skelly did. He showed you all exactly how to end this. And he's going to embarrass them all in court.
What does it feel like to put defiance on the menu?
Fucking amazing, bro.